Well, we talked about
This is kind of a longish topic, but I'm going to just try to condense the notion of what rising profitability and middle class squeeze has done in terms of the prices. But take less than a minute. Who said this?
Inequality.
Can I answer?
Based on population.
Yeah. There's class warfare, all right, but it's my class
Behind this,
that's
well,
making
one
war.
of the big
We're winning.
factors is.
Yeah, the answer is Warren Buffett.
That Tom
So
actually-
he's aware that there's class warfare
This is,
going on.
Marx slowed down.
And
growth.
here's another thing to interact with. This is the long-term inequality theory.
Up until about
Big
1973.
Atkinson.
Product wages were rising.
Just to call your attention to 1929, a real peak. The share of the top 10% was close to 50% of all. This is tax.
And then you see this Marx slowdown.
And by 2007, it actually exceeded
Most
that.
widely used series.
So it seems clear that there's some connection between inequality and the current crisis. The first inequality peak led to the Great Depression.
Very slowly.
This most recent one has led to, in my view, the Great Recession. But let me first of all develop this argument.
So,
I'm going to go very quickly through some graphs. Just look at the bottom graph. This is median family income, the income of the average family. You can see that after growing robustly from 1947 to 1973, in fact doubling, it's increased by only about 8 or 10%.
Wages and productivity were growing
So
just about the same
middle
rate.
class incomes have been growing very slowly over
I
the
see
last
the 35 years, the breakdown of
that. We talked about how inequality has risen.
This
This is another look using
and you can see after 1977, 78.
Gini coefficient. You can
Productivity
see
this
this is just for the post-war U.S. You can see this large rise of
faster
income inequality based on the current population survey data.
and
Um,
the gap that's
What's behind this? Well, one of the big factors is thing that Tom actually mentioned is
You can also
this
see
marked
this
slowdown in earnings growth.
dramatic increase in the
I like this term imposed, the Detroit Treaty. You can
Again,
see
uh,
up until
you
about
see this
1973,
profitability.
product wages were rising,
1950s to
as we'll see, almost in lockstep with productivity.
late
And
1970s.
in fact, almost doubled
Top one
between
shows
1947
the,
and 73. And then you see this marked slowdown. That depends on the
profit
actual
share,
series you use. The most widely used series,
income.
the one on the bottom, the
The bottom
BLS
is
mean average earnings, you can
measure
see
the profit rate.
there's been an actual decline since
Ratios of
1973.
Capital.
So earnings have grown
In both cases, you
very
can see,
slowly,
or that profitability has been increasing very rapidly the last 35 years, 25 or 30 years. Particularly,
So, what implications does this have?
over the last,
Actually, I'm
7 or
going to
8
change
years.
the order a bit.
The Bush 2 administration.
Okay, this is
Profit share.
sort of
So wages are
Tom was
stagnating.
talking about, the fact that
Productivity
at least
up
up
until slowing
the
down.
early
quite a bit in
1970s,
1970s.
wages and productivity were growing just about at the same rate.
But wages
And
did not.
I see the
Growing gap has translated into
sort of the breakdown of the
some profits.
this social
Rising.
accord between labor and capital occurring sometime in the 70s. And you can see after 1977, 78, productivity starts
For
to
a while
increase.
anyway,
That's the
the,
green line on the top, quite a bit faster
labor time
than
divided by the household was being increased.
than wages.
And this was
And the
rising
gap that's
workforce
widening,
participation.
well, that takes the form of enhanced profitability.
But
So
after time,
you can also see this fairly
kind of
dramatic increase in the
and so
profitability in the United States. Again, you can see this profitability falling from maybe the early 1950s to, depending on the series, mid or late 1970s. The top one shows the net profit share. That's a share of profits as a share of total income. The bottom is more of a measure of the profit rate, ratio of net profits to capital stock. But in both cases, you can see that profitability has been increasing very rapidly over the last 25 or 30 years, particularly over the last 7 or 8 years during the Bush II administration. Big increase in the profit share. So wages are stagnating. Productivity, after slowing down quite a bit in the 1970s, started to pick up again starting 1979, 1980. But wages did not, and the growing gap has translated into rising profits. And so profits are rising, wages are stagnating, and as we saw at the beginning, middle-class incomes have also been stagnating, not as much as wages. And why is that? Well, for a while anyway, the amount of labor time provided by the household was being increased, and this was mainly due to a rising labor force participation rate of wives. But after a time, this expansion kind of petered out, and so actually I didn't point this out, but median income has actually been in a decline since about 2000. So the middle class is getting squeezed due to stagnating wages, and on the other side, profitability is rising. So where does this show up? Well, it shows up in terms of what's happened to household wealth. Now, you can actually see that according to conventional figures, just look at the period from 2001 to 2007, wealth was actually growing pretty nicely, and even median wealth. This is the wealth of the middle class. This, as it will turn out, was largely due to the house price bubble, the bubble in the housing market. So wealth was expanding during the 2000s, at least up until 2007. We'll talk about inequality here. But the other side of the picture is that so was household debt. And this shows some figures just for the middle 3 wealth quintiles, which is kind of corresponds to the middle class. The first line shows ratio of debt to net worth. Big increase from 1983 to 2007, from 37% to 61%. Most of the increase occurring after 2000. Even more dramatic is the second line, the ratio of household debt to income. This goes up by more than a factor of 2. In fact, again, most of the increase is from after 2000. In 2001, that ratio was about 100. So it increased 50% from 2001 to 2007. You can see that a lot of this was due to families mortgaging their homes. In fact, if you subtract mortgage debt from the value of their homes, you get net home equity. And this has actually been declining as a share of total assets. It's gone from 43% down to 35%. And conversely, the ratio of the mortgage debt to the value of the house has increased dramatically, going from 29% to 47%. So, again, just to summarize, we see middle class income stagnating, largely due to wages stagnating. Simply, just in order to maintain their consumption standards, what has the middle class been doing? Well, they've been taking out a lot of debt. And so there was a big explosion of debt among the middle class. In my paper, I show that this has not really gone for enhanced consumption, but rather it's really gone just to maintain normal consumption, and it certainly hasn't gone into other assets. fact, stock holdings of the middle class actually fell from 2001 to 2007. So this was more survival. This debt was for survival.